So, can somebody just confirm, please, that you can see it saying reflections?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool, thank you. So what we're going to do now, guys, we're moving on from proportion, and we're now doing lots of things that which involve shape. Okay. Now it's not the best thing in the world to be doing remotely, but it's we're just going to have to do the best we can, and because it's really the last thing that's left for us on the syllabus for this whole year. So we're doing jolly well. We've been going at a nice pace. So once we've finished all of these, then we will just sort of, I think, just do some revision lessons of stuff we've done throughout the year. But for now, we'll work through these. So we're going to have one lesson on reflections today, one lesson on rotations, one lesson on something called translations, and one lesson on enlargements. So they are the four things that you can do to shapes, and they all come under the heading of transformations. So each of these is a type of transformation, and that gets a bit confusing because one of them is called a translation. So a translation is one of the four transformations. Okay, so all we're doing is just think of transformations. We're just transforming shapes. We're doing stuff to shapes. So reflections is the one we're doing today. Now, I got this slide from Mr. Hegarty. So what you're going to need, not today, but for our next lesson, it would be great if you could find some tracing paper. Now, if you can't, then you can normally get away with some quite thin paper. But I just wanted to give you the heads up to just try and see if you can go and find some tracing paper or greaseproof paper or anything that might be able to work as tracing paper. If you can't, it's not the end of the world, so don't worry about it. But I just didn't want to suddenly spring that on you. We will be needing that for our next lesson. Now, so we're going to be needing pencils, sharpeners, and rulers, which hopefully you've got all of those. Now, I couldn't quite see how to do this, but when I was listening to the Mr. Hegarty video, he said there was a way that you could click on something to get the worksheet. Now, that would be quite handy if you're able to do that, because that will then give you a grid that you can actually sort of fill it in on. So you're just going to have to try and see if you can figure out how to do that. The video was suggesting there was a little link there looking something like that, which you could click on. I couldn't see it from my end, but that could well be because I'm looking at it as a teacher, whereas you guys will be looking at it as pupils. So it would be a good thing to do just to see if you can figure that out, please. All right. If it's really complicated and you figure it out, perhaps you could just drop me a little post to explain it. If it's really straightforward, then you don't need to worry because hopefully everybody's been able to figure it out. So that's the equipment we're going to need. Now, when it comes to reflections, the most crucial bit is working out what the mirror line is. Okay, so we're just going to practice a bit of plotting these lines here. Okay, and just bear with me. I'm just taking the keyboard off my laptop, so it's going to go a bit wiggly for a minute. Here we go. So we need to be able to practice, be able to draw these lines here as our mirror lines. So let's just take the first one with x equaling 5. So we need to draw in the line where x equaling 5. Now you've got to be ever so careful. You can see that's called the y-axis. This is called the x-axis. It is ever so tempting to assume that x equals 5 would be the line going across here on 5, but it isn't. What I want you to do, I want you to think about any coordinates where the x coordinate would be 5. So let's just think about some coordinates. We've got the x coordinate and the y coordinates, and I'm looking for coordinates where x equals 5. So I've got a 5 here, a 5 here, a 5 here. It doesn't matter about the y coordinate. I can make up any y coordinates I like. So for example, 0 or 1 or 2. So let's just go and plot those coordinates on our graph. So 5, 0, 5 along the corridor, 0 up the stairs. 5, 1, 5 along, 1 up. 5, 2, and so on. So all these coordinates here are forming the line x equals 5. So x equals 5 is the line going downwards on x equals 5. That would be our mirror line. So for the second one, for x equaling minus 3, that's going to be over here. Okay, let's take the fourth one, for example, y equaling 3. Okay, the y coordinates are equaling 3. Okay, so we're now saying the y coordinates are 3. These are 3. Right, we can make up our own x coordinates. So 0, 3 would be there. 1, 3 would be there. 2, 3 would be there. And you can see that line there is going to be the line y equals 3. That line there was x equals 5. Okay, and that one there was x equaling minus 3. So just be careful. The lines where you've got x equaling something are going downwards, they are vertical. The lines where y equals something are horizontal. And if you're going to get in a muddle, just always remind yourself it's the opposite to what the axes are called. And you can always resort back to just plotting a few coordinates just to gather your thoughts. So really, that's the tricky bit. So let's just look at an example or two of questions. So this question here, so this would be a classic question, would be reflect shape A and the line y equals 0. So the first thing you would have had to do is draw in the line y equals 0. And that is the same as the x-axis. It's the line going straight along the middle. Okay, again, just to remind you why, x coordinate, y coordinates, we're saying y equals 0, y 0, y 0, y 0. The x coordinate is up to us. So for example, 1, 2, and 3. And those coordinates are 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0. And you can see it forming that line along the x-axis. So once you've got your mirror line in, you've just got to picture yourself looking in a mirror. You just reflect all the points. So this blue shape here was the shape we were given as a starting point. We've got to reflect that. So you take every point and just reflect it in the mirror. Now that is 2 squares away from the mirror line. So you go 2 squares behind the mirror line. So that point there becomes that point there. And you just repeat with all the corners, all the vertices. So that point there, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the mirror line. So you go 4 the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. That takes you to there. And finally, that coordinate there on 6, 2 is 2 away from the mirror line. So it goes 2 back the other way. Now, the way Hegarty is going to test you, is going to ask you to go and write down what the coordinates are of your image, where you've ended up. So for here, for example, your answer would be 1 minus 2, 1 minus 4, and 6 minus 2, because those are the coordinates you've ended up with. Okay, remember how coordinates work. The first one is the along the corridor left or right, and the second one is the up or down the stairs. Okay, so this coordinate here, 1 minus 2, was because it's 1 to the right, 2 down. Okay, so what I want you guys to go and do now, please, is to go and do Hegarty 639. I would suggest you go and watch Mr. Hegarty's video to start with, which will go through the same things I have done. Obviously, if you're feeling really confident, you can launch straight into the quiz. And as always, I will be on hand here. I'll be looking out for any posts that you're sending through. And I will also be looking out for your marks on the quizzes on Hegarty. And as soon as I can see you've got a good mark, I will transfer it across over onto my assignment page, where I can leave you a little comment. Okay, so well done, guys. You're all working really hard. I'll leave you to get on with that Hegarty quiz 639. So cheers, guys, and happy birthday.